Previously, Bai Ning Bing's final eruption froze the whole of Qing Mao Mountain, trapping Fang Yuan between 1st Gen Gu Yue and Lord Sky Crane. Now, with both rank 5 experts determined to kill him, Fang Yuan is forced to gamble everything on the Spring Autumn Cicada. If it succeeds, he may have one chance to rewrite the battlefield, seize the Blood Skull Gu, and turn centuries of planning against its creator. But even victory will come with a price, and Bai Ning Bing's fate is about to change forever. Let's continue with Reverend Insanity, Episode 25. At this moment, only 3 people remained on the whole of Qing Mao Mountain. Bai Ning Bing had already become part of this enormous glacier, and his consciousness had nearly vanished completely. Fang Yuan was like an insect trapped in amber, sealed within the ice. As for the 2 rank 5 Gu masters, 1st Gen Gu Yue had raised his aptitude, allowing his aperture to store far more primeval essence than before. Lord Sky Crane had also had time to recover, restoring more than half of his battle strength. Both of their gazes fell on Fang Yuan. 1st Gen Gu Yue wanted to kill Fang Yuan and take his blood. Lord Sky Crane wanted to stop 1st Gen Gu Yue, but he would never tie his own hands merely to protect Fang Yuan. If necessary, he would simply kill Fang Yuan first. With the temperament of these 2 men, neither would tolerate an outsider standing nearby and watching. What if they fought until both sides were badly wounded, only for a third party to reap the benefits? Fang Yuan sighed. The moment he saw their eyes, he knew he was almost certainly going to die. He had already lost the Thunderwings Gu. Even if the 1,000-Li Earthwolf spiders were still alive, there was no guarantee he could escape the pursuit of 2 rank 5 experts. He was only at rank 3 peak stage. Compared to rank 5 Gu masters, the difference was simply too great. In a situation like this, he was the fish on the chopping block, while they were the butchers holding the blade. There was no point fighting. There was no way to flee. Yet Fang Yuan still had one final method: the Spring Autumn Cicada. Fang Yuan focused his mind on his aperture. Inside the aperture's light membrane, there was only a rough stone aperture. The snow-silver primeval sea had fallen to a little more than half. The stone aperture Gu could no longer restore primeval essence, but Fang Yuan still possessed the heavenly essence Treasure Lotus, which was why he could maintain this much primeval essence. None of that mattered. Fang Yuan concentrated entirely on the Gu worm at the center of his aperture. It was his vital Gu, the rank 6 Spring Autumn Cicada. Only by relying on this Gu and traveling upstream through the river of time could a miracle occur. Only an impossible method could overturn the result written by fate. But this method was unbelievably dangerous. First, the river of time was a forbidden domain. Mortals were not meant to enter it. To force one's way inside was to violate the laws of heaven and earth, and disaster would inevitably follow. Second, the Spring Autumn Cicada had not fully recovered. It was like a damaged boat trying to cross a raging river. It might capsize and sink before making it halfway. Fang Yuan was only a rank 3 peak stage Gu master. Activating a rank 6 Spring Autumn Cicada was like giving a giant saber to a child. One mistake, and the blade would cut down its own wielder. If I use the Spring Autumn Cicada, I will have to self-detonate. My cultivation, my flesh and blood, my primeval essence, and every other Gu worm I possess will all be destroyed and turned into the driving force that pushes the Spring Autumn Cicada forward. Compared with the self-detonation in my previous life, this power is far too weak. Heh, the chance that I simply kill myself is extremely high. But I've reached the end of the road. I have no choice. Fang Yuan truly had no other way. Earlier, he had been willing to use the stone aperture Gu rather than risk the Spring Autumn Cicada, precisely because the danger was too great. Out of 10 attempts, the chance of success would not even reach 1. When Gu masters forced the activation of Gu worms far beyond their own rank, they often had to pay a terrible price. Gu Yue Qingshu had been one example. Now Fang Yuan could only place his hope in one thing. The Spring Autumn Cicada was his vital Gu. Little brat, leave your life behind. Offer your blood to your ancestor. Boy, blame your rotten ancestor for your miserable fate. I'll free you from this suffering myself. 1st Gen Gu Yue and Lord Sky Crane attacked at the same time. Fang Yuan was forced all the way to the edge of the cliff. With nowhere else to go, he leapt. Spring Autumn Cicada comb. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Green and yellow radiance suddenly erupted from his body. What aura is that? How is this possible? A rank 6 Gu worm. For an instant, both rank 5 Gu masters were stunned. Then greed exploded across their faces. Kill him! Take the rank 6 Gu. This is a heaven-sent opportunity. Hand it over obediently and I may spare your life. Their speed suddenly tripled. But at that exact moment, boom! Fang Yuan self-detonated. What? Before everything vanished, he faintly heard the shocked cries of the 2 rank 5 Gu masters. There was a legend that a vast river flowed through this world. Its name was Time. All living beings were like fish within that river. The current rushed endlessly onward, and almost every fish could only follow it downstream. Once in a great while, 1 or 2 fish would leap above the surface and glimpse the scenery farther ahead. That glimpse was what mortals called seeing the future. Without the River of Time, the world would be frozen forever, nothing more than a single unmoving picture. Because the River of Time existed, everything could change, the world could decline, the world could flourish, the world could live. The River of Time surged violently. Every drop of water, every bead of foam, contained a story that had once happened. Within the raging current, a single goo worm struggled against the flow. It beat its wings desperately, forcing itself upstream. Waves crashed over it again and again, each one nearly overturning it. It carried Fang Yuan's consciousness and memories. A faint green and yellow glow surrounded its body, flickering within the violent tide like a dying candle in the wind. In the end, it traveled only a short distance upstream, before that tiny green and yellow light nearly faded away completely. The Spring Autumn Cicada had reached its limit. With one last tremble, it transformed into a streak of light and plunged into a bubble within the River of Time. Fang Yuan's entire body shuddered. Deep within his black eyes, a faint green and yellow radiance slowly appeared. The light flashed. Fang Yuan trembled again. A torrent of consciousness and memory smashed into his mind and fused together in an instant. Success! Ecstasy surged through his heart. He had been reborn again. The moment he realized this, Fang Yuan immediately looked around and examined his condition. His primeval essence was being consumed continuously. White eyebrows were wrapped around his wrist and body, binding him in place. Then he looked again. So this was the moment he had returned to. Shui Lung's hidden methods had already activated. First Gen Guye's entire body was wrapped in iron chains, leaving him unable to move. A yellow talisman was plastered across his forehead. They were the Demon Suppression Iron Chain Gu and the Draw Firewood from beneath the Cauldron Gu. Lord Sky Crane had fallen to the ground as well. A white halo covered his body as he poured all his strength into the raise eyebrows and exhale Gu, trying to exhaust every last drop of primeval essence inside First Gen Guyue's aperture. Fang Yuan narrowed his eyes. The white eyebrows had him trapped as well, so he could not move for the moment. He could only spend his primeval essence and wait for the right opportunity. Under the effect of the extraction Gu, a cluster of golden light flew out of First Gen Guyue's body. The golden radiance was larger than a fist but smaller than a wash basin. It fell to the ground, and the Gu worm inside was revealed. The Blood Skull Gu! Lord Sky Crane nearly wept with joy. After several hundred years, I finally see you again. First Gen Guyue ground his fangs so hard they clicked, but he could do nothing. He was bound and completely unable to move. Another cluster of golden light flew from his body and landed on the ground. It transformed into a black and white sphere of light. Within that sphere, two strange Gu worms revolved around each other, chasing one another in an endless cycle. The Yin-Yang Rotation Gu. Exactly as Fang Yuan remembered, Lord Sky Crane shouted. Yin-Yang Rotation Gu, senior brother, you truly went to great lengths to find such a fine Gu. Ha ha ha. You even plan to return to a living human body? What a pity. What a terrible pity that I ruined everything. Fang Yuan looked at First Gen Guyue. Sure enough, the ancient ancestor was sitting on the ground, frantic enough to kick his legs and roar without restraint, completely losing his composure. Wait a little longer, the opportunity is almost here. Fang Yuan's eyes gleamed. He remained perfectly still. A third cluster of golden light emerged and fell to the ground. This time, it revealed a scarlet Gu worm, half transparent like a shadow made from water. Fang Yuan's heart stirred. The blood-curtained skyflower Gu. This was the very Gu that had changed the situation in his previous life and allowed First Gen Guye to turn the tables. Blood-curtained skyflower was a Gu that First Gen Guye had personally developed. Fang Yuan had not recognized it before. Now, he understood its characteristics perfectly. Just as expected, First Gen Guye shouted, "Quickly, come over and destroy that Gu worm!" Several Gu masters immediately obeyed and attacked it. Whoom! A soft sound rang out. Blood-curtained skyflower appeared once more between heaven and earth. A blood-red sphere separated the inside from the outside. Some people were trapped beyond the barrier, while others remained within it. The blood barrier cut apart the white eyebrows. Fang Yuan was no longer forced to spend primeval essence together with the others. The pressure vanished. He regained his freedom. Lord Sky Crane was blocked outside by the barrier. He staggered upright and laughed coldly. After attacking it several times and seeing no result, he was forced to stop. What Gu is this? First Gen Guyu laughed proudly. Fine. Since you want to know, I'll tell you. This is the Blood Curtain Skyflower Gu I refined myself. Water Curtain Skyflower is only rank 4, yet it can block attacks from rank 5 Gu worms. My Gu is rank 5, so naturally its defense is even stronger. With Water Curtain Skyflower, even its owner cannot freely enter or leave. But with my Blood Curtain Skyflower, I may leave whenever I wish, yet no one outside can enter. Junior, brother, take your time. Attack as hard as you like. Once I recover, I'll come out and take that dog head of yours. Ha ha ha. Lord Sky Crane flew into a rage and attacked again. Still useless. After calming himself, he chose to sit outside and recover his primeval essence, waiting for the blood barrier to exhaust itself. The Gu masters inside saw how immovable the blood sphere was and became overjoyed. They felt as though their lives had finally been protected. They immediately began flattering First Gen Gu Yue. Only Bai Ning Bing remained cold and indifferent. First Gen Gu Yue naturally took advantage of the situation and demanded a huge quantity of primeval stones. Everyone hurried to offer them. Although First Gen Gu Yue was still bound by iron chains and found movement difficult, the Blood Skull Gu opened its mouth and crushed the primeval stones one after another. His primeval essence recovered rapidly. Lord Sky Crane saw this and shouted, "You fools! The moment that old monster recovers his freedom, he'll kill every one of you and use your blood to refine his aptitude. You're digging your own graves." No one believed him. You're still trying to drive a wedge between us? Aren't you afraid people will laugh themselves to death? Quickly, this old thief wants us to stop giving stones, so we should give even more. Everything depends on Lord First Gen. Primeval stones continued pouring into First Gen Gu Yue's mouth. Bai Ning Bing watched with complete indifference. Fang Yuan, however, did not. This time, he would make a different choice. First Ancestor, Fang Yuan suddenly stepped forward, his expression sincere. The situation is critical. I offer you the Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus. First Gen Gu Yue burst into delighted laughter. Good, very good. As expected of my descendant, such filial devotion truly pleases this old ancestor. He had wanted the Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus for a long time. He had even sent Bladewing blood bats after Fang Yuan in order to seize it, but Fang Yuan always escaped too quickly and never gave him a chance. At this moment, First Gen Gu Yue had no reason to doubt him. For one thing, before tearing away all pretense, First Gen Gu Yue had claimed that he sent those Bladewing blood bats to protect Fang Yuan. More importantly, Fang Yuan had earlier stepped forward on his own initiative and grabbed Lord Crane's white eyebrows, helping First Gen Gu Yue in the contest of primeval essence. That display of loyalty and filial devotion had not been forgotten. Finally, in the current situation, Fang Yuan could only place his hope in First Gen Gu Yue defeating Lord Sky Crane if he wanted to survive. First Gen Gu Yue did not believe Fang Yuan would destroy his own only path to survival and turn against him. So when Fang Yuan approached, First Gen Gu Yue grinned from ear to ear. With the Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus, my chances of victory increase by another 20%. Move aside and let him come through. Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus? Outside the blood barrier, Lord Sky Crane was stunned. How could that be possible? Under everyone's eyes, Fang Yuan walked to First Gen Gu Yue's side. First Ancestor, I've finally understood. Without you, there would be no Gu Yue village. Without you, none of us descendants would exist today. Your achievements are beyond measure. Today, you must lead us back to glory. The Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus should naturally belong in your hands. His face full of worship. His voice rang with conviction and passion, as though he had finally cast aside doubt and seen the truth. First Gen Gu Yue nodded repeatedly. This brat certainly knows how to speak. What a pity I still have to kill him. But at that exact moment, Fang Yuan suddenly bent down and struck. He seized First Gen Gu Yue. Then he twisted his waist, planted both hands firmly against the old monster's body, and roared. Boar strength erupted through both arms. With one violent throw, whoosh, First Gen Gu Yue was hurled straight out of the blood curtain skyflower. The entire world fell silent. It was as though time itself had stopped. Wind slowly drifted in from outside. First Gen Gu Yue lay on the ground, his hair fluttering in the breeze. He was still stunned. He had not even reacted yet. Lord Sky Crane stood less than 10 steps away from him. A moment ago, the old man had been furious and anxious because Fang Yuan was about to offer the Heavenly Essence Treasure Lotus to his enemy. Never in his wildest imagination had he expected the situation to become this. He froze. His eyes locked onto First Gen Gu Yue lying directly in front of him. The lifelong enemy he had chased for centuries was suddenly at his feet. For a moment, Lord Sky Crane could only stand there in disbelief, as though trapped in a dream. Everyone inside the blood barrier was the same. Silence. Stillness. One person stood with his mouth hanging so wide that a fist could have fit inside. Another stared so hard his eyes seemed ready to fall from their sockets. Even Bai Ning Bing was dumbfounded. He stared blankly at Fang Yuan. Then Blood Curtain Skyflower finally reached its limit and collapsed with a thunderous crash. Only then did everyone snap awake. Fuck! Someone shouted. Fang Yuan! You've made a catastrophically stupid mistake! Another person screamed, pointing at him with a trembling hand. First Ancestor! Someone rushed forward, trying to drag First Gen Gu Yue back inside, only to be blocked by the newly formed Blood Curtain Skyflower. You damned little thief! First Gen Gu Yue finally recovered. Lying on the ground, he roared in fury. You dare deceive your ancestor? I'll tear out your tendons before I let you die. Ha ha ha. In the middle of everyone's horror, laughter suddenly rang out. It came from Bai Ning Bing. He laughed so hard that tears ran from his eyes. He even raised a thumb toward Fang Yuan. Interesting, interesting. This is too exciting. Fang Yuan, are you insane? Fang Yuan, how could you do this? You even dared scheme against first Gen Gu Yue. Are you still human? God, Fang Yuan must have been bought by that white-haired old monster. He's a spy, a traitor. Voices exploded all around him. Standing in the middle of that chaotic crowd, Fang Yuan merely smiled. I am a rank 3 peak stage Gu master. Who dares kill me? And who among you can? After the recent struggle of primeval essence, there were barely enough rank 3 Gu masters left to count on one hand, and all of them had almost no primeval essence remaining. Most of the people here were only rank 1, rank 2, or ordinary mortals. Against Fang Yuan, there was simply no comparison. Ha 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 ha! Fang Yuan laughed loudly. He slowly bent down and picked up the Gu worms lying on the ground. In his left hand, he held the Blood Skull Gu. In his right, the Yin-Yang Rotation Gu. Both had originally belonged to first Gen Gu Ye. Now, affected by the extraction method, and cut off by the blood barrier, they had been sealed and no longer obeyed him. The seal was also an obstacle for Fang Yuan. He would have to remove it before he could subdue and refine them. If he simply shattered the seal by brute force, the Gu worms themselves might be destroyed. Blood Curtain Skyflower was different. To activate Blood Curtain Skyflower, one had to crush the Gu itself. Destroying its seal had simultaneously activated it. But Fang Yuan was not in a hurry. He knew exactly what would happen next. Both the Demon Suppression Iron Chain Gu and the Extraction Gu had been contaminated by Blood Frenzy Gu. Soon, they would dissolve into pools of blood and die. Ha ha ha! Senior brother! So even you have a day like this? Give me your life! Lord Sky Crane screamed in savage delight and shot forward, his attacks falling upon first Gen Gu Ye like a storm. First Gen Gu Ye was still bound by the Demon Suppression Iron Chain Gu. He could not move. He was beaten like a sandbag. Pain drove him half mad. He cursed and roared, struggling with all his strength. Then, suddenly, the iron chains melted into a puddle of thin blood. The instant he was free, first Gen Gu Yu spread his wings and flew toward the blood barrier. Boom! Without any surprise, Blood Curtain Skyflower rejected him and kept him outside. It was the proudest invention of his entire life. Its defense was absolute. Once activated, those inside could leave, but anyone outside could never enter. You little bastard, I won't let you die easily! First Gen Gu Yu's hatred toward Fang Yuan deepened until not even all the water in the world could wash it away. Naturally, Lord Sky Crane refused to let him go. He attacked relentlessly, laughing as he did. First Gen Gu Ye had no choice but to abandon the blood barrier and focus on fighting Lord Sky Crane. Fortunately, he had swallowed a huge number of primeval stones earlier and restored much of his primeval essence. Although he had fallen into a slight disadvantage, he could still endure. First Ancestor, you can do it! Lord First Gen, we're cheering for you. Ancestor, you're our only hope. The clash between the two rank 5 experts drew everyone's attention. Fang Yuan withdrew his gaze and looked toward Bai Ning Bing. In the current situation, Fang Yuan was nothing more than a rabbit caught between two ancient foxes. The idea of waiting for them to wound each other, and then benefiting as the fisherman was almost impossible. Neither side was a fool. No matter how fiercely they fought, they would not lose their reason. Besides, the blood barrier could only protect Fang Yuan for a limited time. Once it vanished, and Fang Yuan was the only person left inside, both First Gen Gu Ye and Lord Sky Crane would inevitably come after him. This was not the first time Fang Yuan had been reborn. The Spring Autumn Cicada had fallen into an extremely weakened state again. He could not use it a second time. So from this point onward, he could rely only on himself. He had to squeeze out every possible chance of survival. Fang Yuan already had a plan, but there was one person who would play an absolutely crucial role. That person was Bai Ning Bing. The self-detonation of the Northern Dark Ice Soul physique would have an enormous influence on this battle, especially while both rank 5 Gu masters were fighting outside the blood barrier. But how could Fang Yuan persuade Bai Ning Bing? Fang Yuan looked toward him. As though sensing it, Bai Ning Bing turned his head as well. Their gazes met. Fang Yuan was dressed entirely in black. Black robe, black hair, black eyes. The corner of his mouth curved upward in a faint, sinister smile. I have a method to resolve the final calamity of the 10 extreme physiques. It can bring you back from death. Bai Ning Bing's entire body trembled. Of course he wanted to live. What method? Fang Yuan changed the subject. But the method is not guaranteed to succeed. It may fail. Those words only made Bai Ning Bing believe him more. Fang Yuan added a few more sentences. Even if it fails, I can at least make your final moments extremely exciting. Bai Ning Bing's heart surged. With only a few words, Fang Yuan had struck directly at the deepest part of his nature. He was convinced. Bai Ning Bing was clever. After thinking for only a moment, he asked directly, "What do I need to do?" Fang Yuan smiled. At that exact moment, the extraction Gu also dissolved into a pool of blood. The seals on the Blood Skull Gu and Yin-Yang Rotation Gu vanished at the same time. Fang Yuan immediately took them. He released the aura of the Spring Autumn Cicada. The 3 goo worms were only rank 4. They immediately submitted. Fang Yuan poured in his primeval essence. In only a short while, all 3 had been refined. What? Damn it! Outside the blood barrier, first Gen Guyua's mind jolted. He had lost both the Blood Skull Goo and the Yin-Yang Rotation Goo. Fear struck him. Another loss. The blood barrier shook violently. How is this possible? In such a short time, you refined all 3 of my goo worms? First Gen Guyu went insane with rage and smashed against the barrier again and again. Fang Yuan had reached straight into his plans and stolen the Blood Skull Goo and Yin-Yang Rotation Goo. It was no different from cutting away his life. Everyone inside retreated in terror. First Gen Gu Ye looked like a cornered beast, flames of fury burning in his eyes. Lord Sky Crane charged in after him. I'll kill you! I'll kill you! First Gen Gu Ye entered a berserk state, attacking as he retreated, throwing every method he had at Lord Sky Crane. Lord Sky Crane was startled and hurriedly defended. The two became entangled again. The battle rapidly intensified. Fang Yuan laughed. Then he turned toward Bai Ning Bing. Come, let's kill. Before he had even finished speaking, the chainsaw golden centipede screamed in Fang Yuan's hand. With a single slash, he cut a nearby Goo Master in 2.
Blood Skull Goo!
Immediately afterward, Fang Yuan ordered the Blood Skull Goo to absorb every drop of the victim's blood.
Fang Yuan!
What are you doing? Stop! With such powerful enemies outside, why are you turning on your own people? Stop right now, or else— Ah! The crowd was horrified. Fang Yuan's methods were vicious beyond belief. He had begun killing his own clansmen. I will kill only members of the Guye clan. Anyone unrelated, get away from me. Otherwise, I'll kill you too. Fang Yuan roared. Everyone froze in terror and stumbled backward, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and the apparently insane youth. Fang Yuan really has gone mad. He's lost his mind. We need to attack together. That's right. If this continues, even if the enemies outside don't kill us, Fang Yuan will. It was like kicking a hornet's nest. The entire crowd exploded into furious shouting. Yet not a single person dared to make the first move. They could only yell and encourage someone else to attack. Ha ha ha! How interesting! Bai Ning Bing suddenly laughed. Then he attacked as well, killing someone beside him. Lord Bai Ning Bing, the dead man had clearly been a Bai clan member. This is bad. Lord Bai Ning Bing has gone crazy too. The survivors were terrified out of their wits. Fang Yuan turned toward Bai Ning Bing. Even he had not expected this. Bai Ning Bing laughed wildly. You killed your own clansmen, so I'll return the favor. There's nothing left to save anyway. No matter how this ends, the casualties are already beyond counting. Bai clan village is gone. The clan leader who treated me well is dead too. So why not let everyone die? How exciting! Ha ha ha! Even better. Fang Yuan laughed and continued the massacre. These Guya clansmen were going to die regardless. It was better for them to die by his hand. After all, Fang Yuan did not possess first-gen Guya's aptitude. How could Fang Yuan truly join forces with Bai Ning Bing? Bai Ning Bing was already close to death, yet his battle strength remained terrifying. Even killing Fang Yuan in his current state would not be difficult. So Fang Yuan had to make full use of him while he still could. The chainsaw golden centipede struck again from behind. One more body fell. After nearly 100 people had died, the blood skull goo reached its limit. The crystal skull's surface turned a wet, brilliant scarlet. Fang Yuan laughed and activated the blood skull goo above his head. The skull opened its jaw. A fountain of thick, bloody liquid poured over Fang Yuan from head to toe. Fang Yuan accepted it gladly. He inhaled deeply, savoring the sensation. His black hair clung to his face. His entire body was covered in blood. He looked like a demonic fiend crawling out of the depths of hell. The people around him stared in terror, screaming in despair. As expected, my aptitude really increased. Originally, Fang Yuan's aptitude had been around 40%. Later, because of the man-beast life burial goo, it had fallen to 30%. Now, after the blood essence fountain poured into his aperture, his aptitude increased by another 10%. 50%. What a treasure! No wonder first Gen Gu Yue valued it more than his own life. Fang Yuan opened his eyes and nodded in satisfaction. Then the killing continued. Inside the blood barrier, the two of them stirred up a storm of slaughter. It became a true massacre. Fang Yuan, you beast! What madness has possessed you? Gu Yue Mo Yan charged toward him. Fang Yuan twisted aside and avoided her attack. The golden centipede blade flashed. The young woman was cut cleanly in half. Fang Yuan, spare us! We're your uncle and aunt! Gu Ye Dongtu and his wife dropped to their knees and begged for their lives. Fang Yuan sneered. His left hand swept outward. A blood-red moonblade shot through the air. Their heads separated from their bodies and rolled across the ground. The blood skull goo absorbed the blood of the Guye clansmen and condensed it into another essence fountain. Once again, it poured into Fang Yuan. Let's enjoy this. Fang Yuan closed his eyes and inhaled deeply. A warm current surged through him, spreading into every part of his body. His spirit became more refreshed than ever, as though he had been born anew. His aptitude rose another 10%, 60%. A Gu Master's aptitude of 50% belonged to C grade. At 60%, it entered B grade. At this moment, Fang Yuan officially stepped beyond C grade and became a B grade talent. But my cultivation is falling. Fang Yuan opened his eyes, his gaze darkened. His aptitude had risen to B grade, but his cultivation had fallen from rank 3 down toward rank 2. It was strange. First Gen Gu Ye had belonged to the same bloodline, yet his cultivation had never fallen when raising his aptitude. Why had this problem appeared when Fang Yuan used the Blood Skull Gu? Troublesome. It must be the Stone Aperture Gu. Fang Yuan sighed inwardly. He had once used the Stone Aperture Gu to squeeze out his future potential and force his cultivation all the way to rank 3. The Blood Skull Gu, on the other hand, poured blood essence into the aperture and raised the potential of the aperture itself, increasing aptitude. The effects of the two Gu worms were colliding. Blood Skull Gu was rank 4, while Stone Aperture Gu was only rank 3. Blood Skull Gu held the advantage. Under its influence, Fang Yuan's aperture slowly transformed away from the stone aperture and back toward a light membrane. As that happened, his cultivation realm also began to drop. Fang Yuan had not predicted this change. Bai Ning Bing only became stronger as time passed, slaughtering in every direction. With him handling much of the danger, Fang Yuan no longer needed to attack continuously. He could focus on harvesting the lives of the Gu Ye clansmen. Outside the blood barrier, First Gen Gu Ye watched his descendants being butchered and nearly exploded from rage. He screamed again and again, yet could do nothing. He had spread his bloodline and waited hundreds of years precisely so he could personally harvest these descendants and use their blood to raise his aptitude. After centuries of planning, someone else was now reaping the reward. That brat is so young, yet his methods are even more vicious than his ancestors. His demonic nature runs deeper than First Gen Gu Ye's. Lord Sky Crane watched from above and felt a chill in his heart. The massacre continued for several hours. Fang Yuan's cultivation eventually fell all the way to rank 1 initial stage, but his aperture recovered its light membrane and regained the ability to naturally restore primeval essence. He bathed in the Blood Skull Gu's essence fountain nearly 10 times. The effect became weaker with each use. At first, only 2 or 3 baptisms were enough to increase his aptitude by 10%. Later, the increase became smaller and smaller. But after losing 40% of his aptitude in the past, Fang Yuan now pushed it all the way to 90%. 90% aptitude. A grade aptitude. In my previous life, I needed nearly 200 years and a stroke of fortune before I managed to raise my aptitude from C grade to B grade. I never expected that this time, disaster would become opportunity and let me leap directly into A grade. Fang Yuan clenched his fists, excitement stirring in his heart. Bai Ning Bing finally stopped killing and walked over. What now? Only the 2 of them remained inside the blood barrier. Every other Gu Master and mortal had been killed. Outside, the 2 rank 5 experts were still locked in fierce battle. No one else had managed to escape. Across the entire battlefield, only 4 people remained. 2 inside the blood barrier, 2 outside. Fang Yuan looked beyond the barrier and spoke calmly. Now we wait for First Gen Gu Ye to lose, flee, and for Blood Curtain Skyflower to disappear. And after that? Bai Ning Bing asked. After that? Fang Yuan turned his head, glanced at Bai Ning Bing and smiled. After that, you die. Bai Ning Bing froze. What? His eyes narrowed. Dangerous killing intent surged from him. What do you mean? The self-detonation of the Northern Dark Ice Soul Physique is extremely powerful. Your cultivation is not high, so the odds are still poor, but it may be enough to fight a rank 5 Gu Master. When the moment comes, can you control the self-detonation? Fang Yuan asked with a smile. What else can I do? Bai Ning Bing curled his lips. It's not as though I can simply choose not to explode. I know you can. Fang Yuan laughed lightly and patted him on the chest. In his mind, he remembered the scene from the previous timeline when Bai Ning Bing had self-detonated and died. And those final words, live for me. Witness all the wonders of this world in my place. I'll stay beside you. Then you self-detonate when the time comes. Once the right moment arrives, I'll save your life and bring you back. And if you don't save me? Ha ha ha. Fang Yuan smiled faintly. Then gamble. When you self-detonate, I'll remain beside you. If you suspect my sincerity, you can use the ice explosion to kill me as well. You should already be able to sense that my cultivation has fallen to rank 1 initial stage. When that happens, I won't be able to resist you. But if you choose to trust me, I may still be lying. In the end, I might refuse to revive you. Perhaps I do not even possess the ability to do so. So you must gamble once. The choice is yours. Bai Ning Bing fell silent. Fang Yuan was forcing him to wager everything. But in truth, Fang Yuan himself was gambling too. The stake was his own life. Bai Ning Bing thought for a while. Then he suddenly threw back his head and laughed, clapping his hands. Ha ha ha! How exciting! I'll take this gamble! Fang Yuan ignored him and focused once more on the battle outside. Just as he remembered, First Gen Gu Ye gradually fell into a disadvantage and was firmly suppressed by Lord Sky Crane. Although first Gen Guye had replenished his primeval essence, he had split his attention too many times and fought for far too long. How could he defeat Lord Sky Crane now that the old man had gathered himself and was fighting with full focus? Besides, Lord Sky Crane had already tested most of first Gen Guyu's methods. The ancient ancestor would not catch him off guard so easily again. Damn you all! After some time, first Gen Guye raised his head toward the sky and roared. Little thief, you destroyed the plan I spent centuries preparing. If I don't kill you today, how can I ever extinguish the hatred in my heart? Then his black wings beat violently. First Gen Guye turned and fled toward the horizon. After him, Lord Sky Crane immediately gave chase. With both rank 5 Gu masters gone, the battlefield fell silent. This should have been a priceless opportunity. Unfortunately, Blood Curtain Skyflower had become an enormous obstacle. There were still nearly 2 hours before the blood barrier would fully disappear. Then, a streak of white light suddenly flew back. It transformed into Lord Sky Crane. His body was covered in terrible wounds. A gash stretched from his left shoulder all the way to his waist, deep enough to expose bone. Fresh blood poured from it, yet Lord Sky Crane's spirit was at its peak. He radiated joy. The hatred of centuries had finally been avenged. In his hand he held a bloody severed head. It belonged to First Gen Guye. First Gen Guye was actually killed? Bai Ning Bing stared in shock. Fang only smiled. Looks like that old man truly hated First Gen Guye. Ha ha ha. Killing him came at quite a price. As they spoke, Blood Curtain Skyflower finally disappeared. Fang Yuan and Bai Ning Bing lost their final shield. Little thieves, surrender obediently while you still can. I'm in a good mood right now, so I may spare your lives. But once this blood barrier disappears, I'll make sure neither of you even has a place to be buried. Lord Sky Crane hovered in mid-air, looking down at them with arrogant laughter. Fang Yuan and Bai Ning Bing exchanged a glance. Both smiled faintly. Neither said a word. Lord Sky Crane's expression darkened. Fine. You refuse the wine offered in friendship, and insist on drinking the wine of punishment. Then, die. Before he even finished speaking, his body transformed into a streak of white light and shot downward. Bai Ning Bing laughed boldly and stepped forward. I've been waiting for you. The moment the words left his mouth, every trace of blood disappeared from his skin. His body began turning into ice. A freezing gale rose. The wind screamed wildly. The world became bitterly cold. A glacier surged upward. What the hell is this? Lord Sky Crane had never expected such a change. Bai Ning Bing's eruption struck him head-on and sealed him inside this ice. Boom! Boom! The glacier shook violently. Lord Sky Crane launched attack after attack from within, and nearly broke free in only a few breaths. We can't let that old man escape, Fang Yuan shouted. Bai Ning Bing could no longer speak. Without hesitation, he detonated one arm. The limb exploded into an enormous cloud of icy mist. A violent gale swept through it. The glacier expanded again, and the surrounding ice instantly thickened by nearly 10 meters. Lord Sky Crane roared from inside the frozen prison and attacked with growing madness. Bai Ning Bing detonated his other arm. The glacier expanded yet again, crushing down on Lord Sky Crane. Under Bai Ning Bing's control, the snowflakes became like an enormous army, surrounding Lord Sky Crane from every direction. Lord Sky Crane was a rank 5 Gu master, but after killing first Gen Guye, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Again and again he attacked with everything he had. In the end, the ice still trapped him. So it really is the Northern Dark Ice Soul physique, but you think this alone is enough to kill this old man? You're dreaming! Lord Sky Crane finally understood what was happening. He activated the life-preserving Jade Burial Goo. A brilliant jade-green light enveloped his entire body. The radiance gradually changed from illusion into substance. A transparent jade coffin formed around him, sealing and protecting his body within. The jade coffin was extraordinarily sturdy. Bai Ning Bing tried several times but could not damage it. In the end, he could only thicken the ice surrounding the coffin, forming an ice mountain dozens of meters tall. Fang Yuan watched the entire process carefully. Worthy of a 10 extreme physique. Even though this was the second time he had witnessed it, he could not help admiring the power. Fang Yuan still needed Bai Ning Bing. At this moment, both of Bai Ning Bing's arms had become ice. Even his face was beginning to blur beneath layers of frost and snow. That was only the outside. Within, his consciousness was slowly fading away. Once that consciousness vanished completely, Bai Ning Bing would truly die. Fang Yuan looked at the ice spreading toward him. He understood clearly that if he relied only on himself to escape, he would eventually freeze to death inside the glacier. Now, he reached into his aperture and took out a pair of goo worms. One released black light, the other released white light. The two colors revolved around each other, forming a Taiji sphere. They were the yin-yang rotation goo. Go! With a thought from Fang Yuan, the pair immediately flew forward and entered the ice statue that had once been Bai Ning Bing. Fang Yuan's cultivation had already fallen to rank 1. However, his aperture still contained a large reserve of rank 3 snow silver primeval essence. He poured almost all of it into activating the goo worms. In the next instant, black light shot into the sky. Yin energy gathered from every direction. The surrounding air spun into a vortex of natural primeval energy. A completely new vitality emerged from the frozen statue. It grew stronger and stronger. The blinding black radiance slowly faded. Crack! Crack! The ice statue began to split. Its outer shell shattered. Bai Ning Bing emerged from within. His silver hair was unchanged. His white robe was unchanged. Both arms were once again whole and flawless. His face remained exquisite, but now there was a faint rosy color in his cheeks, giving the beauty an almost delicate charm. The glacier's expansion stopped instantly. The freezing air around them vanished. The ice had already advanced to within only a few inches of Fang Yuan. He had come extremely close to death, but he was alive. I actually came back to life! Bai Ning Bing stared in absolute disbelief. He examined his pale, jade-like hands, then touched his face and body. Joy erupted across his expression. Ha ha ha! Fang Yuan laughed openly. I used the yin goo from the yin-yang rotation goo on you. It can transform yang into yin, rebuilding your body and giving you a new life. It is a rank 4 healing goo with an effect close to resurrection, but it has one flaw. Once used, the goo master's aptitude falls by 10%. Originally, Bai Ning Bing possessed one of the 10 extreme physiques. His aptitude had been a perfect 100%. Now it had fallen by 10%, leaving him at 90%, exactly the same as Fang Yuan. For most people, losing 10% aptitude would have been terrible news. For Bai Ning Bing, it was wonderful. Excellent, my aptitude has fallen. That means I'm no longer the Northern Dark Ice Soul physique. Ha ha ha, so what if I'm only at 90%? Bai Ning Bing laughed joyfully. Fang Yuan shook his head. The 10 extreme physiques are not so easy to escape. This method reduced your aptitude, but as you continue cultivating, your aptitude will gradually recover. One day, you will become the Northern Dark Ice Soul physique again. When that happens, you'll need this Yang Gu. It can transform your body once more and reduce your aptitude by another 10%. As he spoke, Fang Yuan ignored Bai Ning Bing's intense gaze and calmly stored the Yang Gu inside his aperture. The Yin-Yang rotation Gu always exists as a pair. You use the Yin Gu, so only the matching Yang Gu in my possession can reverse the transformation. Another Yang Gu will have no effect, and don't think about stealing it. The Yang Gu has already been refined by me. With a single thought, I can destroy it. Bai Ning Bing still possessed his rank 3 cultivation. Fang Yuan was now only rank 1. He needed a method that would make Bai Ning Bing hesitate to act against him. The Yang Gu was that leash. So that's how it is. Bai Ning Bing sighed. Fang Yuan, you really calculated everything. Then tell me, what do you want me to do before you'll give me the Yang Gu? Ha 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 ha. Fang Yuan laughed for a long while. Then his expression turned serious. Qing Mao Mountain has become a forbidden land of ice. The 3 clans and countless living creatures have been frozen beneath the glacier. Within 3 to 5 days, almost all of them will die. An abnormal event on this scale will definitely attract the attention of countless people. And that old man isn't dead either. He's sealed himself inside a jade coffin and is waiting for a chance to escape. We absolutely cannot remain on Qing Mao Mountain. And as for me, my cultivation has fallen to rank 1, and my goo worms are incomplete. I cannot travel the world alone in this condition, so I need your strength. This world is enormous, and it holds countless wonders. Qing Mao Mountain was only a tiny corner. Come with me. We'll travel across the world together. I guarantee it will be far more exciting than anything you've seen here. So that's your plan. Bai Ning Bing lightly bit his lip. Most of what he felt was excitement and joy, though there was also a trace of helplessness. Fang Yuan's proposal was extremely tempting. I can agree, but one thing has to be made clear. What? Fang Yuan asked. I'm not following you. You're following me as we travel the world. Bai Ning Bing raised his chin and smiled arrogantly. Ha 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 ha. Fang Yuan laughed freely. Then where are we going next? Do you already have something in mind? Bai Ning Bing asked. Baigu Mountain, Fang Yuan replied. He was still laughing. What are you laughing at? What's so funny? Bai Ning Bing looked confused. Fang Yuan laughed until tears nearly came from his eyes. You still haven't noticed that something is wrong? What's wrong? Bai Ning Bing frowned. Then suddenly his expression became spectacular. Shock, fear, confusion, horror, disbelief, rage. Every emotion appeared across his face at once. He slowly looked down at his own full chest. Then he screamed. How did I become a woman? His voice echoed across Qing Mao Mountain, shaking loose sheets of snow from the frozen slopes. Of course you became a woman. It's called yin-yang rotation gu. When the yin gu is used on a man, it transforms yang into yin and turns him into a woman. When the yang gu is used on a woman, it transforms yin into yang and turns her into a man. Yin-yang rotation. What did you think the name meant? Fang Yuan spoke as though it were the most obvious thing in the world. Damn you! Bai Ning Bing glared furiously at Fang Yuan and cursed. At this point, there was no question anymore. She absolutely had to obtain that Yang Gu. Brother Bai, don't get so angry. Being alive is already a blessing. Fang Yuan offered a few words of comfort. A blessing? My ass. Try turning into a woman yourself and see how blessed you feel. Bai Ning Bing's furious voice rang across the frozen mountain. 2 days later, the sun stood high in the sky. The ice and snow had begun to melt. Streams of water flowed down the frozen mountain. Crack! Somewhere inside the glacier, ice suddenly broke apart. A brilliant jade-green beam shot into the sky. The light condensed in midair into the shape of a jade coffin. Boom! The coffin shattered. Lord Sky Crane gave a furious roar and saw sunlight once more. He had regained his freedom. The life-preserving jade burial goo was a mysterious rank 5 goo. As long as a goo master retained even a single breath, it could preserve that life and delay the worsening of injuries. More than that, the jade coffin it created was incredibly sturdy and could even be considered a powerful defensive method. Damned little thief! Lord Sky Crane cursed through gritted teeth. He was both furious and anxious. He had successfully killed his lifelong enemy, First Gen Gu Ye, but he had failed to obtain Blood Sea Ancestors' true inheritance. How could he return to the Immortal Crane sect and explain that? The ice cave, where Fang Yuan had once remained, had already been opened and emptied. I can only hope that Brat hasn't gone far. Clinging to that faint possibility, Lord Sky Crane searched the surrounding area. He activated investigative goo worms. Deep inside the glacier, he discovered many faint signs of surviving life. Life was tenacious. It could often create miracles. The White Glacier had covered Qing Mao Mountain for only 2 days. That was not enough time to kill every living creature buried beneath it. Found something. I can't believe that Brat hid here. The most dangerous place is the safest place? How cunning. Lord Sky Crane's entire body shook with excitement. He burrowed into the ice. A short while later, he pulled out a block of frozen ice. Inside it was Feng Zheng. His entire body was covered by a layer of moonlight, the moon raiment goo. He was nearly dead. Only a single breath remained. Lord Sky Crane swore he would never forget Fang Yuan's face for the rest of his life. But he was a rank 5 expert. The moment he saw Fang Zheng clearly, disappointment appeared on his face. This isn't him. He only looks almost identical. Sigh. The old man gave a long sigh. Then suddenly he froze. Wait, they look this similar, maybe twins. If that's true, then this boy is the closest blood relative of that little thief. A sharp gleam appeared in Lord Sky Crane's ancient eyes. With a blood relative of Fang Yuan in his hands, he could refine the kinship bloodworm. It was precisely because of this rank 5 investigative goo that he had once managed to locate First Gen Gu Ye among countless people across the vast world. My sect mission has not failed completely. There is still hope. This boy is my only hope! I must save him! Fang Zheng slowly opened his exhausted eyes. He had awakened. Where am I? His gaze was blurred. He could make out only a vague figure in front of him. His entire body felt weak. His head felt as though it were splitting apart. The last thing he remembered was the 3-clan competition. A vast flock of ironbeak flying cranes had suddenly appeared, forcing everyone to flee. He had activated Moon Raiment Goo to protect himself, but had been surrounded and attacked by the cranes. During the battle, one of them had pecked him directly in the forehead. He had lost consciousness and fallen from a cliff. You're the old man who was riding the crane!